Welcome to the Movie Draft Podcast. I'm Ethan Simi, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Lawhorn.
Hello.
That's all you got, Ben? Just hello?
I had nothing ready. I totally forgot. I needed to have something.
We have a whole, just a massive array of Jake Gyllenhaal one-liners to choose from here. Today, we are collaboratively drafting Jake Gyllenhaal movies. Now, you may notice it's just Ben and I. We're doing the first two-person collab draft here on the show. Figured we'd mix it up a little bit. It's usually Sophie, Ben, and myself, of course. And then sometimes we throw a guest in there. We have other people. Ben, different dynamic today. How you feeling? Just you and I, kind of head-to-head, but not.
Yeah, it's a little similar to our old 24 Minutes A24 drafts. We did a couple of those one-on-one. But this is even tighter than those because we just have 7 movies we're choosing, man. Like this is going to be cutthroat. I'm excited about this. I'm glad to be doing the first two-person with you. Curious to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that Jake Gyllenhaal is our first two-person because even though we've podcasted together on this show for a little bit of time and on our other podcast for quite a while, we're a few years deep now, I still don't really know how you feel about a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal performances, movies, like where he lands. I know your old podcast, 3 Films in a Pod, you guys came out with this wonderful T-shirt that I'm wearing that listeners can't see, but it's the Gyllenhaal of Fame. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal and Maggie Gyllenhaal as Oscars on a podium. I wore it in celebration of the show. So I know you have at least some kind of connection to Gyllenhaal, but you're a Maggie truther, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was the bit that we had on our show. We called it the Gyllenhaal of Fame. And the question is when one of the Gyllenhaals came up, the question was posed as to whether it'd be better if the other Gyllenhaal had starred in it. So if Maggie had been Mysterio in, Far From Home.
Sure. And Jake is Maggie's role in The Lost Daughter.
Oh, yeah,
okay,
there you go.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah. I'll say I like him as Rachel in The Dark Knight, but yeah, The Lost Daughter would have been perfect. So yeah, I'm a big Gyllenhaal fan. I'm excited to talk about this movie. It was really fun to revisit some of these that had been too long. So I'm super excited about this.
This episode is going to drop just a couple of days before Jake Gyllenhaal's newest movie, Roadhouse, comes out. Yeah. 2 things about Roadhouse. By the time that this episode does drop, I will have seen Roadhouse, which is exciting. I'm going to see it at South by Southwest a few weeks early. I'm very excited for it. Second thing, I've never seen the original Roadhouse. Do I watch it before I go see the new one? Or do I just go in like a loser and I'm just like, this is it now? Jake Gyllenhaal is my Roadhouse.
Man, that's tough. I love the original Roadhouse so much.
I know you do.
So
that's why I posed the question.
part of me is like, you need to see it because even just like any sort of connection they make to that movie, I'd be curious. Like you obviously have a better understanding of it if you have seen it first, but I also don't want to taint your viewing experience. I think you are in a somewhat unique position to have this be your first Roadhouse if you choose to hold out.
Roadhouse number 1 incoming. Saved it for my boy Jake, which I'm pretty proud of.
I like it.
I most likely will not see the original before I see the new one. So just honesty there. I'll
tell you what, Sam Elliott has never been hotter. So
damn. Well, maybe I will. Who knows? I don't know. Okay. What's your relationship to Jake Gyllenhaal? You mentioned you're a big Jake fan. You're a big Gyllenhaal kind of guy. Do you remember the first movie you saw him in? The first time you were just like, oh, I want to watch more of his movies?
I know I saw October Sky in the theater because I felt like a Disney movie, a family movie that my mom would have taken me to. And then I think my next jump must have just been years later when I saw Donnie Darko on DVD or something. I was like, oh, this is the October Sky kid. This is crazy. This is such a weird movie. I've liked the stuff. I've liked some of the stuff he's done. I've missed a lot of it. We might talk about that as we go over the movies that we don't select. I think I had a list of 25, 30 movies, and I probably got to 10 of them. So there's plenty that I've missed out on from Gyllenhaal, but I mean, I'm a fan of his for sure.
I think the first time that I saw him in a movie was Donnie Darko. And that was pretty early into movies are pretty cool for me. But I don't think it necessarily spurned I'd like to watch more of his projects. I think for me, when I saw him in Prisoners, I was like, oh shit, this guy would be cool in other stuff. Like, we should check that out. And that really got me kicked off on other things. Listeners of our A24 podcast know by now, and people that you know follow me on Twitter probably know by now. I'm a big Jake Gyllenhaal fan. Like, he's kind of my guy. He's I really enjoy when he shows up in a movie, and I really do try to seek those out. Like you mentioned, he is in 54 things. He's got 54 acting credits. I have not seen all of those. I don't know if I plan on seeing all of those. There are even some that are fairly new that like I just haven't gotten to. I'm interested to see where our conversation goes with Jake and like his career arc, because to me it seems like he's split into two different Jakes. Of course, like the kind of the very endearing, youthful, babyface, loving Jake Gyllenhaal, and then the latter career, unhinged, energetic, very spicy Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how our draft shakes out. You mentioned 7 movies. We're going best 7 Jake Gyllenhaal movies. We're collaboratively drafting them to really determine where they stand in Jake Gyllenhaal's filmography. Would it be wrong to look at this collaborative draft like an elongated Hall of Fame?
No, I think that makes sense. I think Hall of Fame totally tracks.
Okay. The 7 best Jake Gyllenhaal movies then.
That's what I'm going for. I'm going with my 7 best, 7 favorite. It's my Hall of Fame, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you. Any strategies you want to share?
Win. It's my strategy. It's just to win.
How though?
if I get you freaking out, then I've won. That's all.
Okay. You mentioned win.
Yeah.
Which scares me because I still haven't figured out if I want to be drafter A or B. If I get spun first, I get to choose. If I'm last, then I don't get to choose. Drafter A is going to have spots 5, 3, and 1 with 1 veto. Drafter B is going to have spots 7, 6, 4, and 2 with 1 veto as well. So listeners of prior collaborative drafts kind of know how this works already. New listeners, that's how we do things. There's a drafter A, there's a drafter B, and you get some abilities with it. Today, just the 2 of us, we're only going to have 1 veto apiece. That means no veto overrides.
Yeah.
And once your veto's spent, that's
a precious thing. Yeah.
So I'm nervous.
Really mean it. Yeah.
You do got to really mean it. We're going to kind of go through this exercise and see what 7 Jake Gyllenhaal movies we put on here. How concerned are you about including maybe monumental or kind of historical pieces of work from Jake's filmography that might not fit within your personal 7?
I think it's important to give a full perspective on his career. Mm-hmm. I think there are some that may be like great performances, but not great movies. You know, there's that whole debate of like, are we putting the movie in or are we putting his performance in? I think I can think of at least 1 or 2 where I'm just like, man, that's a really good performance. I don't know that I love the movie, but Jake's giving it his all. So I might want to reward that. But again, that also depends on where we fall in the pick. Are we A or B? Because if you're 7 and 6, you know, you can be a little fast and loose with it. But if you have to wait all the way till 5, it's like, I don't know that I want to do that. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for sure. It's tough. I've got my movies that are pretty near and dear to my heart. And this whole single veto thing has me equal parts really worried and stressed and equal parts really excited, because if I can get you to use your veto, then I can have the board, that I can just do things that I want to do.
Chaos.
And I feel good about that. The nuances of a 2-person collaborative draft, I guess. It feels much more battlesome. Feels much more head-to-head and competitive than like a 3-person collab or a 4-person collab.
I feel like you're stating here that you're trying to draw a veto out of me.
No, I would never. You know, I come into this with teamwork. I lay all the cards on the floor.
Normally. But then we have, you know, situations like Sophie playing Pulp Fiction at 6, trying to get me to veto it. Like, you're not getting a veto out of me just because you want it out of me.
Does that keep you up at night, the fact that you didn't veto that?
It doesn't keep me up at night. I can't believe she played it, but it's crazy to me.
Okay. Is there anything that I missed going over the rules for our Jake Gyllenhaal 7-movie collaborative draft?
Not that I can think of. Just shout out screen drafts. That's it.
Yeah. Shout out Screen Drafts for kind of inventing the collaborative draft and kind of how things are done here. Okay. Spin the wheel, Ben. Spin the wheel. It's either me or you for the draft, A or B. Do you want to be A? You want to be B?
We'll see.
Oh my God. I hate how you do this to me.
Should have said, how does one suck a fuck? That's what I should have said.
It's okay.
It wasn't on my game. It's on you.
Okay. So that means I get to pick.
Do you go for more movies or do you go for higher ranked movies?
What's
it going to be?
That's tough. That's tough. More movies, higher ranked movies. Like we said, we got one veto each. It feels like to me, we've got I feel like there's a pretty locked in like top 4 Gyllenhaals between us from what I can think, what I can feel here over the airwaves here, over the microphones.
I like that.
So that leads me to want to go with pick B, because then I get 7-6 and maybe I slide in some personal faves.
Okay.
But also you will probably fuck me when it comes to spot 3 and 1.
I don't know. We'll see.
Every time.
We'll see.
Okay, I'm actually gonna go with pick A. I'm gonna go with drafter A.
Oh.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take less movies, but I feel like I have a strategy behind this. Okay. I will take picks 5, 3, and 1. Ben, you're gonna be drafter B. You're gonna get picks 7, 6, 4, and 2. I already regret going with A, but let's just proceed. Let's start this collaborative draft.
Damn, dude. I didn't think that's what you were going to do, honestly.
Whew, okay, good. Swerved on you. I feel good about that. Caught you off guard.
You did. You really did. You got me off guard. I was ready for number 5. It's like, well, we'll let him do his first 2 picks and we'll go from there.
No, I ain't no sucker, Ben. I ain't no sucker.
All right. For my first pick,
this is big. This sets the vibe. This is big.
Yeah. Gyllenhaal's played a cop of sorts a few times.
He has.
I think he does it really well.
I know what you're alluding to here, and I just continue.
And one of my favorite versions of it is David Ayer's End of Watch from 2012.
Okay.
With Michael Pena. Man, we get some real gritty shots in this. We get real, like, the Jake Gyllenhaal character is, I forget exactly. This is one I didn't get to rewatch. I've seen it a few times. I didn't get to rewatch it, but there are moments where we have like cop body cam footage. Mm-hmm. The Jake Gyllenhaal character is also, I believe, in school of some sort, filming things. So we also get that kind of handheld footage. And it's, some days in the life of these LA cops and the stuff they have to go through, and what they're willing to do to get the person, and what's morally right and morally wrong. Like what can you get away with versus what should you have done? And also what it's like to bring like romantic partners into this lifestyle. Anna Kendrick is in here, playing Jake Gyllenhaal's love interest. America Ferrera is in it. She does great. David Harbour's here. And I don't know. I think this is a good movie. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's a great Jake Gyllenhaal performance. But it's maybe not something that I think of. It wouldn't be like a Rushmore pick, or if I'm doing my top 4, Here we are. But this for me is a solid, like, if we're extending Rushmore a little bit, I would throw End of Watch on here. So for me, I love this movie. I'd recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it. This was like a blind watch for me. I think I bought the Blu-ray at like a closing down Blockbuster or something. I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's like $4, so I'll get it. And I loved it. I thought it was really well done. David Ayer he's hit or miss, I think, with his filmography. The Suicide Squad and or not the Suicide Squad, but just Suicide Squad.
I was gonna say you got to get the right one in there.
Yeah, let's make sure we get the right credit for this. But yeah, he did. What else did he do? He did Tax Collector with Shia.
He's got The Beekeeper most recently.
The Beekeeper.
You see The Beekeeper?
No, I didn't know he directed that.
I didn't either. I haven't seen it though. I heard it's fun.
But I also liked Fury, the one with Brad Pitt and Shia. Yep. Like, I thought that was well done. So Yeah, he's kind of hit or miss. But this one for me is a hit. So that's why I'm going to play it 7. I feel pretty good about it here.
Okay. Well, I have not seen End of Watch. I've been
Okay.
recommended this movie several times. So much to my own detriment, I haven't watched it yet. So I'm not going to veto it. I feel based on your recommendation, we've got a great sense of teamwork going on here because this movie sounds good. It looks great. It's not the only film he's been in with David Harbour, which I think is interesting. Frank Grillo is in this movie as well. He's on the cast list, which is crazy. Sounds pretty good. I'm happy for you.
Okay.
What's up with Jake Gyllenhaal being drawn to playing cops? What's his thing?
I don't know. It's really interesting. He's done it a handful of times, and I think he pulls it off pretty well. He's believable. I'm sure we'll talk about at least one of the other movies where he's played a cop. But I think he's believable. I think he does a good job.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. I think Prisoners being the other film, he does End of Watch in 2012. He does Prisoners in 2013. Both cops. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. End of Watch at number 7. I need to watch it. And yeah, you're on to number 6, Ben.
This spot sucks, and I'll tell you why. Because for me, I have a locked in top 5. That if any of those don't make it, I'm going to be bummed. And maybe I should have played one of those at 7. I don't know, but I feel like I need to play one of them at 6.
That's the tough part of this draft. That's what makes it the 7 really deceptive.
So I feel like I could say any of these 5 movies and you'd be like way too low. Like it needs to be higher, but obviously we can't have like 5 number 2s and number 1s. Like we can only have one of each of those.
That is how math works, Ben.
That is how math works. So what I'm going to go with is one of the most recent ones that I rewatched. I was happy to visit it again. He may not give the strongest performance in the movie, but he gives a very powerful performance here that has to be met by his co-lead. And I'm going to go with Ang Lee's Brokeback Mountain.
Wow. Interesting.
I think I feel like it has to be on here. This is one of my 5, but I don't know, looking at these other movies, I'm like, I don't know how you feel about it. I know you liked it, but I don't know if it's just like, this is the debate of like the good movie versus the Gyllenhaal performance. I think this is both of those things. I think this is a 5-star movie. I think the relationship that he built with Heath Ledger is fucking fantastic. Like obviously those two people carry this movie. Heath is asked to do just a little bit more, so I think it's seen more as his movie. But none of this is possible without Gyllenhaal as his co-star. And Gyllenhaal is spectacular, even to the point where he ends up with Anne Hathaway and just like living that second life. The scene where Anne Hathaway's dad, they go back and forth and like turning off the TV.
You son of a bitch. This is my house. This is my kid. This is my wife.
It's so good. And you see the smile on Anne Hathaway's face. I'm just like, oh, he finally like either snapped or he finally stepped up. But either way, I'm happy. But yeah, I mean, driving 14 hours one way to continue this relationship with Ennis. He does it's such a beautiful performance. I'm afraid that I don't know. So I saw this when it came out. I saw it actually in theaters in 2005. Like
wow.
I love this movie.
Jealous.
Well, it was kind of crazy because there were theaters in Utah that wouldn't show it because of the content.
Oh, sure. Interesting.
Like they were showing movies that were just like murder, kill everyone, blood, all this stuff. But all of a sudden we had a homosexual relationship and these people had these like morals that they had to compete with. Like, I don't feel right showing this movie. And that's one of my things I remember about this film. It's just like the fact that it was like a little difficult. You couldn't just go to any theater in Utah to go see it. But this is such a powerful film. I don't know how much I've talked about it on here before, but I am a child of a gay man. My dad is gay. So I grew up, every other weekend in San Francisco. I grew up participating in pride parades, all that kind of stuff. So I love that community so much. And it was so powerful for me to see this on film. Obviously it's like very different. This I think takes place in the 60s and 70s, something like that.
Yeah. I think all the way into the 80s as well.
Into the 80s. Yeah. But just getting that representation on here, I think is really strong. And I just think it's just a beautiful performance. Like there is some physical aspect to it, but you can just tell these people love each other. And that's what's more important. And that's what that's what all these love movies are about. It's the connection that the two have. It's not how much sex they're having. It's just like how much they love each other. And you see that in this film. I think Heath is great. I think Michelle Williams is fucking marvelous in this movie. Like
an absolute rogue gallery of that guy's, honestly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the low part is probably Randy Quaid, but like he's also maybe kind of accurately cast as this
he is
eventual
that's
bigot
what's
of
hilarious.
Sorts.
Yes.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I love this movie. This is out of everything that I rewatched to prep for this draft, I was so excited to get back to this movie because it had been way too long. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful movie. Ang Lee knows how to direct this film perfectly. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say about this film, but I think it's a perfect 5-star movie.
Yeah. I am torn. I'm torn here because I just watched Brokeback Mountain for the first time yesterday. Watched it in the morning. I was watching it in my office. Eyes just welling with tears towards the end of the film. Went out for dinner with my family, with some friends, and started talking. And my daughter chimed in and she said, "Dad, why were you crying when you were watching a movie earlier?" And I was like, "It's just a movie about people that can't be together." And that made me sad. And that's how you explain Brokeback Mountain to a 5-year-old, in case anybody was very curious. This movie is 5 stars. It is a 5-star, incredible film. I want it higher than 6. This is the problem. So it is surprising to me that you played it this low, because I thought you were going to play it like top 3, and I was ready. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's where we're going, and that's fine. But it's here, and I feel like, especially in this 7-movie draft, we only get 1 veto. It just doesn't feel wise to use a veto to move something higher.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's I'm gonna leave it at 6. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna play it. So Brokeback Mountain is at 6. Now that I've seen Brokeback Mountain, I get it and I understand what people are talking about with this movie. And I was really afraid going into it because like I had tried kind of consciously to like wait for the right time to watch this movie because I knew it was going to be heavy. I knew it was going to be a lot. And I was really worried. I hadn't looked it up on Letterboxd. I hadn't like seen what my friends thought about it or anything. And I was worried that in my head, I had like built it up to be like, oh, it's this movie that everybody loved at one time, but unfortunately it's like a victim of the system. People don't really love it anymore. People fucking love this movie, and I fucking love this movie, and I'm pretty unapologetic about it now, and I'm very excited to rewatch it, hopefully quite soon. Like I said, rogue gallery of people, like Linda Cardellini shows up, Kate Mara shows up, incredible stuff. Heath Ledger's unparalleled with his accent, his physicality, his relationship with his daughters, I think is really interesting in this film. Beautifully shot, just a truly magnificent film. Number 6 it hurts. I want it higher, but we're going to keep it there, Ben. We're going to keep it there.
I think it's got to stay there. But for me, my top 5 are all 5-star movies. So this.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Well, this is interesting because strategically that tells me there's a couple things that are not on your plate that are definitely on my plate.
I bet there are.
That we are going to need to solve. And this is where things get weird. Is because now we're at 5. We're already in the top 5 here. Like I mentioned, Jake Gyllenhaal, kind of 2 personalities. Brokeback Mountain, great example of his more youthful, heartfelt personality. Incredible in that film. Very endearing. This pick, for me, at number 5, is a more truthful, late-stage, unhinged Jake Gyllenhaal performance. Is the movie great? I don't know. Maybe. Is the performance great? Oh, you bet your ass. I'm going with Michael Bay's Ambulance for number 5.
Okay.
I love this movie. Is it critically great? No, it's not. But I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. Saw it in theaters when it came out, and I was like, that's movies. We're doing it. Like Michael Bay, you got it. You got some sick drone shots. We're in an ambulance. We're going through LA. We're singing car karaoke. We're performing surgery on a guy in the back of an ambulance.
Oh, we are.
We're trying, we've got our American vet conversation going around this film. Now, there's one particular thing I want to say about Ambulance. I bought it yesterday on 4K. I wanted to watch it and prep for this draft. I wanted to rewatch it. Unfortunately, I ran out of time. I didn't get the chance to do that. But what I did is I put in that disc and I scrubbed it for one scene in particular. And this scene in particular is everything you need to know about Jake Gyllenhaal, not only in this movie, but Jake Gyllenhaal as to why I like him in the later stages of his career. There's a man dying in the back of an ambulance, literally has flatlined. The nurse that is trying to escape the grips of Jake Gyllenhaal as a hostage is called back to the ambulance to save this man's life. Jake Gyllenhaal, sporting a very large gun pointed at her, turns around to get back in the ambulance. And you know what he says? Covered in fire extinguisher powder, he yells and he goes, "This was cashmere!" And that is what's important to my guy Jake. His cashmere sweater got fucked up. That's what's important, and that's why Ambulance is number 5.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, listen, I had fun with Ambulance. I think this is also why I wanted the 5-3-1 spot, because this to me is a number 6 or 7 movie. But it's also why I knew I needed to play one of my top 5 at 6.
Uh-huh.
This is going to look absurd to see Ambulance
over
above Brokeback Man. It's insane, and I guess I'm
it's
gonna have
the
to answer
duality
for
of
that.
Jake Gyllenhaal, man. We did it though. We captured it.
Both great performances. I can't deny that. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is so good in this movie. Isaac Gonzalez does a wonderful job. It's just kind of the three of them the whole time. Here's a hot take for you. Is this the best shootout scene since Heat?
Oh,
it's a great shootout scene.
That's a great take.
Michael Bay knows how to film this stuff. Like, give him shit all you want for his sun flares and all that, but like, the man has used drone better in this movie than almost any other movie I can think of. Like, he was inventing shots. That shot where like the cop car jumps up a little bit and the camera goes right under it.
Sick as fuck.
It's so good. He's using these FPV drones, like maybe a little too much. We get a lot of like scale the building downward, kind of shots. Maybe could have
like repeatedly one after the other.
Yeah,
to happen
like,
so quickly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we get it, man. We know what you can do. But overall, I think he does a good job with this movie. And yeah, I'm cool with it on the list. Maybe wish it was lower, but this is what happens.
Well, so this is why I took the 5-3-1, because I knew if I took the 7-6-4-2, I have to play Ambulance at 7 or 6. There's no way it's going higher than that. And 5 was the way I get it the highest.
Yeah,
because I mean, we got to be honest with each other. There's 4 movies. There's more than 4 movies that need to fit in these 4 spots, and this is the problem, of course. Yahya Abdul-Mateen, great in Ambulance. I haven't seen Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I never will. Man, he's got 5 things coming up right now, it says, but it seems like he's been sucked into IP, which is kind of a bummer. He's great in Ambulance. I kind of wish he was just in more like things in general.
What's the Marvel thing he's got coming up?
He's got Wonder Man coming up.
Wonder Man, yeah, that's right.
And
he's great in Candyman, though. If anyone hasn't seen that, I think he does a great job.
He's great in Candyman. I don't really know if he's got a date for Wonder Man, so I'm a little concerned. I'm a little bit worried for our guy there. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal is great in this movie. I love Ambulance. I'm really sad I didn't get the chance to rewatch it going into this draft. Of course, I'm gonna be rewatching it tonight, and then on our next draft, I'll probably be quoting it more.
What happens if I veto this?
I don't know. What happens? Let's think about this. You veto this.
You're saying we got a top 4, which I have. I have a top 4.
Mm-hmm. I've got a top 4. Well, let's see here. Okay, I've got to go through my notes because I got to take out Brokeback Mountain, which you've already done.
On your top 4?
It was in my top 4.
Yeah.
I would have played it high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really have a 5, but I've got a top 4 for sure. You've got a veto, Ben. I don't know. Are you going to use it at all? That's the question.
This is the spot I think I'd use it in, because I don't think you're crazy enough to play a B movie at 3 or 1.
I wouldn't underestimate.
I kind of want to roll the dice and see what you'd replace this with.
I mean, it would put us in a bind. It'd put us in a bind.
Yeah.
Because then I got to put something else here at number 5 that is tough for me because I have something. I've got my top 4 kind of locked. I have something in the 5 spot that I feel deserves to be on this list. So you're going to make me second guess myself. And we all know that's where I get really out of control.
Now I'm dying to know what it is.
But will I play it? Probably not. Who knows?
Let's find out. I'm going to veto it.
Wow. You fuck. You are so terrible to me.
Let's find out. I'm excited.
Oh, my
in my
God.
heart, there's like 2 or 3 movies you could play here that I'd be like, all right, that's fine. Like, I guess I'm just maybe hoping you play one of my 4 so that I don't have to play it. But
make things easier on you.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to do that.
Number 5. Well, man, those 6 and 7 spots are looking really appealing to me right now.
I bet.
They had no pressure on them.
Yeah.
5. Oh, boy. Okay. Ambulance, not on the board. That's my baby. Ambulance. Come on. Okay. Here we go. I've got movies that I need high. I've also got a couple movies on the fringes here. Now, I've got 3 and 1. So I am going to go the way of probably bumping something down to make sure it gets included. And I'm going to put... Yeah, I'm going to go this way. Okay. I'm going to put Nightcrawler at number 5. Now, Nightcrawler for me, personally, higher. I feel like strategically I can't risk the way things might shake.
Yeah.
I got to know that I got to have Nightcrawler in this list. Incredible performance from Jake Gyllenhaal as Lou Bloom. Really a phenomenal kind of two-hander from both Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed, who's great in this movie as well. As, you know, kind of this nighttime, I guess, TV journalist. And he goes after accidents. And how far is too far? When he starts staging accidents and breaking into people's homes and discovering murders and gangs, is the content worth it? I think obviously a very timely film for our modern day society, our current society, what is happening. He's unhinged in this movie in a very impressive way. And it kind of makes me miss this era of Jake Gyllenhaal because this is a directorial debut, pretty small film. I think that he brings something special to smaller films when he gets to be Jake Gyllenhaal. And this is where we see it really shine the most. I think Nightcrawler has kind of had a reclamation over the last few years of people finally realizing how good it is. We've been on that train for a long time. I love Nightcrawler. I think it's an excellent film.
This is my number 1.
Wow.
This is my number 1. I love Nightcrawler.
Wow. I didn't know it was your number 1.
I think it's the greatest performance he's ever given.
Oh my God.
I was going to play this at 2 if it hadn't been played yet, just to make sure it got on.
I don't know whether to feel like a shitty friend or a great strategist because the board is mine.
Yeah, we're getting the good ones on there. It's all good. I think this is the first I had seen Riz Ahmed. I went back and visited his film called 4 Lions, which is really funny. It's about these 4 terrorists. It's a comedy, but they're kind of bumbling terrorists. Like they can't do anything right. It's actually really funny. And he's in that. But this was my first experience, I think, with Riz Ahmed. This is a fun fact. While it wasn't my screener, this is also the first screener I ever watched.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I was at a friend's house who was like a local film critic for the newspaper here. And he's like, hey, I got to watch this tonight. Do you want to watch it? Like literally just went in super blind. I had no idea. Saw it before it came out in theaters, you know. Then I was just like, holy shit. And he gave me the screener. So, you know, shout out. I'll leave names out because I don't know if he's supposed to do that or not, but this is the first screener I ever had. I love this movie. Jake's performance is fantastic. Rene Russo, Bill Paxton.
Why is Rene Russo so hot in this movie?
So hot. Yeah.
It's unreal.
Their connection is just kind of crazy. Like the way Jake is like
this demented sexual attention. Yeah.
It's absurd, but all the memes or whatever that we get from this, the pointing back at the news crew, it's like, oh, I bet like that's like there's a lot of great stuff out of this movie. But yeah, him just progressing from the beginning of stealing chain link fences to sell the metal to then getting to the point where he's gonna like literally move dead bodies so he can get a better shot is just, it's crazy to watch that happen throughout. Like to go in the house right after the murderers just left, like I don't know, there's so much tension and so many great things going on in this movie. So yeah, it's my number one. I think it's his best performance. Maybe not the best movie he's been in, but for me, it's his best performance for sure.
It's very Michael Mann adjacent with like the underbelly of the night LA, which I think is pretty exciting. Probably another reason that you and I like it so much. Yeah, I just think that there's something about this movie that really unlocks Jake Gyllenhaal, and especially at the final 20-ish minutes where him and Riz Ahmed are kind of following the gang members and the cops and trying to get the story. I'm not going to spoil the movie. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, you know what happens. It's dark shit, and it's really intense. Wow. Okay, this is your number one. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's my number one.
Crazy. Okay. Well, that's my 5. I mean, you made me do it.
I did indeed. All right, for my number 4, I'm stuck, man. Like I've got some movies I want to play, and it's like, do I play what I think is the more valuable Jake role, or do I play what I think is the best movie he's ever been in, just to make sure it gets on this list? I don't know.
Why don't we play ambulance here? It's a great ambulance spot.
Ambulance is a great spot at number 4. That is for sure. I think what I'm going to play here is what I feel is the best movie he's been in. He's not the lead.
Interesting.
He's not the lead. This is another kind of Brokeback situation, but he gives a very powerful performance. Has to meet the co-star, the co-lead at the level they're at, which is an absurd level. I
hope I know what movie you're talking about.
I'm assuming you do. We're talking about Prisoners.
Not the movie that I had in mind.
Really?
Incredible. Wow.
Yeah. Prisoners.
What?
It's got to be on the list, man. It's got to be on the list.
Okay. Listen. Hold on.
Okay.
You got to pause. Okay. We got Prisoners at number 4. Okay. Do you want to talk about Prisoners now? Because I'm probably going to veto it.
If you're going to veto it, let's just talk about it later. Like, that's fine.
Okay. I think I'm going to personally veto Prisoners.
Okay.
Because I have it substantially higher on my personal list.
Okay. Cool.
We're going higher. I'm not letting Prisoners slide at 4.
Dude, I have no problems with that at all. I think it should be higher.
That's incredible
as well.
that is not the movie that I thought you were referring to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, let's see what movie.
This is insane because I won't say anything else, but Prisoners is not going number 4.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Let's just cleanly break that right now.
All right. I guess I'll unhighlight that. I thought it was staying. I guess I can highlight anything now since we're both out of vetoes.
We are both out of vetoes. We both played them, which is good because I was afraid neither of us would play them. I thought we'd try to play the board a little bit too much in the upper tier here.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good.
It's working out.
It's fine. It's good. Yeah. Okay.
To me, there seems to be a pretty notable number 4. If we're omitting Ambulance because that was vetoed, I assume you're not going to play it. Seems to be a pretty notable number 4 here.
Yeah.
And that would be good. I don't think we're on the same page though. Well, obviously not with that pick.
We're about to find out. I am playing what is technically a directorial debut, a feature film directorial debut. And also I think Jake's real feature film debut. He had been in other movies, but I am going to go with Donnie Darko here.
Okay.
You'll suck a fuck. You know what I mean? I think this is the spot for it. This is what I was debating between this and Prisoners, because I feel like Donnie Darko is more important to Jake's legacy. Yep. You know, having been his first film, that's why I was going to play this at 2. So that's why I was playing Prisoners at 4, but I'm fine with it being here at 4. It has to be on the list. This movie doesn't exist without Gyllenhaal. The only time him and Maggie have been on screen together, which I think is kind of fun. Speaking of Roadhouse, Dalton himself, Patrick Swayze, is in this movie as Jim Cunningham. We get one of my favorite lines ever from movies, which is, "I question your commitment to sparkle motion." That was like back in MySpace days. That was like my little tagline on there because like I love that line so much.
Elite.
Jenna Malone is in this. It's a trippy movie. I don't even really know how to explain it other than, someone. It was interesting to watch kind of the behind the scenes on this because Richard Kelly and Jake Gyllenhaal described this as just like the movie of what it's like to be a teenager, but it's all done through this whole thing of like this kid is informed of when the world is going to end, or when his world is going to end in 28 days and blah 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 whatever, from this really weird rabbit suit looking dude, and then just how he kind of spirals with that information. And it's so well done. It's a crazy movie. I really don't know how to speak about it eloquently. If you haven't seen it, I think you've got to check it out if you like Jake at all, because this is, for me, what put him on the map. I think he was like in City Slickers or something like that as like a kid. And he had done like October Sky and some of these other movies. I guess maybe October Sky is his first one, but this for me was like his first, like, oh, he doesn't have to play a kid, like he can do real movies, so to speak. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with here is Donnie Darko, number 4.
Okay. That's good. I feel like Donnie Darko specifically led me to my question initially of how do we feel we need to represent the filmography of Jake Gyllenhaal? Because I do feel like Donnie Darko is imperative to his legacy. And I think even now, when you talk about Jake Gyllenhaal, like people talk about Donnie Darko. I think that's like what he's kind of the best known for. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen Donnie Darko. I know I love it. It's a great film. It's a really interesting Jake Gyllenhaal performance. You mentioned Jake and Maggie being on screen together. They're great as like kind of battling siblings. It's a really, really strange movie. And I think it is indelibly like a cult classic, which it has become, and it fits that mold and that vibe so well. Okay, Donnie Darko at 4 puts me in a tough slice here. I got 3 and 1. You got 2.
Yeah. No more vetoes. Whatever we play,
okay,
stays.
This is it. So Donnie Darko got played. Okay. Now, of course, Prisoners, I need to play at some point in time here. There's one other movie has to be on this list. And I'm worried because it hasn't got brought up naturally in conversation. You haven't brought it up at all.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it. I haven't scrubbed your Letterboxd, and you probably scrubbed it from your Letterboxd in preparation for this draft. So if I don't play something here that I need, then I risk one of them falling off. Because if you don't play it, then we're screwed.
Yeah.
But if I also play something here that you would play at number 2, then you've got a free slot to just kind of pick whatever you want.
It's true.
Really puts me tough. Can we discuss a film? And like, can I get your opinion on a film before I try to play it? You're killing me. I just don't know where to go.
I have 2 more movies that are locks for me that I would
just be truly confounded if one of those is not the film I'm referring to.
What if I play Prisoners at 2?
That's fine. I've got one that I can play at 1. I don't mind that at all. Okay. If that's the deal that we want to shake, I'm okay with that, actually.
I'm making no deals. I'm just saying it's possible that I could play it at 2.
Just luring me in for fake bait. I have no problem if you play it at 2, but there is a very distinct 1 and 2 for me. Has to exist. And I think in your mind it has to exist too. And I think if you look at this list of 7, if Prisoners and that other film are not on here, it's kind of a moot point. I mean, I don't know. What do you
I don't know,
want to
man.
do?
I got to get Prince of Persia on this list. So
Jesus
what are you gonna
Christ. Oh my God. You can play Bubble Boy at number 2?
do?
Okay. I'm going to put faith in you, and I'm going to see how it works. I'm going to see if we can shake this out. I'm going to see how things go.
Okay.
I feel like you know what's right, and I feel like, the stars are aligning. I feel like we both have great admiration and respect for Jake, and we don't want to do our boy dirty necessarily. So, well, I feel pretty good. Would it be wrong to play Ambulance at 3? Is that wrong? Above Donnie Darko?
Any part of this, that's for sure.
What are the 3? What are your top 3 that you go? Damn it!
Prisoners is on there.
Okay, I know Prisoners on there.
You know how I feel about he's been in another Denny movie. 24.
He has.
Talked about that.
You a big Fincher guy?
He's okay.
His movies are all right.
Yeah, they're fine.
What about movies that Fincher has made where he flies in huge trees to kind of outfit a set? Kind of a big deal.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's a directorial thing, in action that he could take.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send it. I'm going to put Ambulance at number 3.
Oh.
I'm going to put Ambulance at number 3. I'm going to put full trust and faith in you that you know exactly what needs to be put at number 2. So I can play number 1.
Interesting. What a move.
Okay, what do you want from me, Ben? Give me some more. No, give me something more.
This is exactly, I want you to follow your heart. That's all I ever want.
What if this doesn't go according to plan?
What if? We both spoke on it, right?
On
Ambulance?
what?
On Ambulance.
Yeah, we spoke on Ambulance.
Are you locking it in at 3?
Pretty good movie. Yeah, I'm going to fuck it. I'm going to lock it in at 3.
Okay.
This is for all the marbles right here. This is it.
So, okay.
I just don't know where the pod goes from here if we're not aligned on this. Genuinely.
Well, another pivotal film for me.
Oh my God. Going to the personal well, huh?
Gyllenhaal, being a sibling, was also in a movie with another set of siblings. We got Randy Quaid in Brokeback Mountain, and we got Dennis Quaid in a little movie called The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh my God. Are you high right now, Ben?
A Roland Emmerich classic about the destruction of the world, it being frozen over into a new ice age. Gyllenhaal's probably first action role in 2004. He's the star of the show here for sure.
Why are you talking about this film like you're going to play it?
It's a great film. I rewatched it for this draft.
Oh God.
What do I want to play
it is. I've never seen it.
Source Code?
Wouldn't know. Haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Source Code?
Trust me, I want to see Source Code. Haven't seen it. Too busy.
Seen Enemy?
Enemy's pretty good.
Yeah,
Gotta be honest. Pretty good. You're not a big spider guy, though. That's the problem here.
Spider-Man, he's in one of those. Far From Home.
He's in one of those.
I'm really surprised you didn't play that.
Truly unhinged Ben take. Would he play Far From Home right now? Played against
That's
me.
what I thought you were going to play at 5, and I was going to let it go.
No, I couldn't do that. Come on.
Would you have played it at 7?
I got a brain. Yeah, I'd have played it at 7.
Okay. All right.
I'd feel, I mean, 5 and 7, two totally different animals here.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
I still hold fast on my take that is one of the best villains in the MCU. I think he's excellent in that role as Mysterio.
He is pretty good. But we're going to go with my number 2, which is Zodiac.
Oh, thank the fucking Lord.
Wonderful Gyllenhaal performance here.
Incredible announcement, by the way. Just swift, painless.
Just let's get through it. Ruffalo, Downey Jr., speaking of supporting actors.
That's the movie I thought you were referring to because you mentioned supporting actor.
Gotcha. Yeah. That makes sense. I see that. I don't know what they were nominated for in this, if anything, but great movie.
Not nominated for any Oscars.
Gyllenhaal plays the artist Robert Graysmith. Obviously, the story is about the Zodiac Killer, the San Francisco Chronicle, and their whole connection to this, trying to decipher the codes. Gyllenhaal plays an artist who just gets really wrapped into it. And man, what a fucking amazing movie Zodiac is. Like, it is so good. Chloe Sevigny was wonderful in it. Brian Cox, fucking Succession, like, he's
incredible,
doing a great job. Again, another film with a ton of great people, but Gyllenhaal is possibly the best part of this whole movie. His scene where he goes to that dude's house and they get invited to go down to the basement just chills down my spine still, even knowing what happens. Zodiac is another 5-star. This was one of my movies that had to be on here, so I'm going to play Zodiac at number 2.
Okay, this was obviously what I was hoping that you would play, so I'm glad we're living in this reality. He is really unreal in this movie, especially to hold weight not only against Robert Downey Jr. but against Mark Ruffalo as well, as Dave Toschi, which is really incredible. This phenomenal 3-pronged leading actor story. And every time I think of Zodiac, obviously I think of the diner scene where he mentions door to door less than 50 yards. I've walked it, which is I think the hammer of the movie.
Yeah.
Where you realize this is it for Graysmith. He's devoted every ounce of his being to tracking the Zodiac and figuring out who the Zodiac is. Really excellent film. I just am so grateful that Fincher made Zodiac. I think it is. I think it's one of the great thrillers probably ever.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I feel like film Twitter has a lot of respect for it, but it still just kind of feels like when it comes to Fincher, maybe it doesn't get talked about maybe as much as it should. Maybe it does. I don't know. I know in the circles that we run in, people appreciate Zodiac, but I think the general public maybe doesn't remember it as well as obviously like Social Network or something along those lines. But this is one of his best for sure. This is a 5-star movie.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. And I put that on Twitter. By the time this episode comes out, it'll be a few weeks ago. What are Fincher's top 3 movies? Is Zodiac in that top 3 list for you?
I want to pull up his filmography before I commit to anything.
You want to get a little studied up?
Yeah, I'm not going off the cuff here and fucking up. God, 95 credits because all these fucking music videos. Like, come on, dude.
Classic Finch, man.
I don't know that it makes my top 3, which is crazy though, because it was a 5-star movie. That
is wild.
I love The Game.
Yep. Mutual Respect. The Game, 5-star flick.
Social Network.
Uh-huh.
And Gone Girl. I think those would be my 3.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. But again, that's no shit. That's or shade or anything on Zodiac. Like, they'd probably be right there at number 4. Like, if we're doing a Rushmore, it'd make my Rushmore.
Right.
But I just don't think it'd make my top 3.
I think Social Network, Zodiac, The Game for me. Those are my top 3. So I'm glad to see Zodiac here represented on this collaborative draft list. That brings us to number 1. And really the reason that I wanted Drafter A and the reason that I vetoed your number 4 pick is because Prisoners is going number 1. Wow. Detective Loki. Incredible name. You rewatched this morning. Very, very jealous of you. I didn't have enough time to rewatch this incredible film, but I watched a couple clips and a couple of like fan made edits, and I texted you and I was like, I'm so fucking mad that I did not rewatch Prisoners leading into this, because it is for me the best of Jake Gyllenhaal, because we get this very erratic yet restrained performance as Detective Loki. He has to remain his bearings in order to figure out what's going on. He's directly juxtaposed from Hugh Jackman, who
Yeah.
is losing his mind and abducting people and torturing them and going crazy. Loki's doing the same. He's just kind of doing it internally until he's not. And his freak out moment on the desk, I think, is incredible.
Yeah.
In the kind of in the police room where I believe the suspect like shoots themselves, and his reaction to that shot is truly immaculate. His hair has never been better. His jewelry has never been better. His tattoos never been better. Really all elite status in this movie.
Speaking of like never better, I think this is possibly the best list of co-stars he's had. Hugh Jackman, Viola Davis, Melissa Leo, Maria Bello, Terrence Howard, Paul Dano in just a fucking powerhouse performance. I think he does so good. And then David Desmalkian, like,
yeah, gosh,
dude, like what a cast this is. Like it is wonderful. Everyone is just like batting 1,000 on here. Jackman losing his mind, Gyllenhaal, even just like the little twitches, like blinking a little too hard, due to like his lack of sleep and things like that. But their back and forth between Jackman and Gyllenhaal it's amazing. And I mean, I know we both this week saw what a lot of people are arguing is Villeneuve's like best movie ever, which, is quite possible. But this one, for me, it's the scale of this all. It's so small, but it feels it feels big, I guess. And maybe big isn't the right word, but like encapsulating, like, even though we're just kind of on like a neighborhood block of sorts. I love this movie. I'm glad to see it on here at number 1 for sure. Like I said, this is just kind of the Nightcrawler for me is his best performance, not in his best movie. And this is like the best movie that he's in. But he's up against Jackman, which is huge, but he still gives a great performance.
Isn't that so fascinating that Denis made Prisoners? I think that's really interesting, considering he went on to make movies like Arrival, huge movie, Blade Runner 2049, massive in scope, Dune, and then Dune Part 2. He'll obviously make a Dune Part 3. These movies are game-changing in literally how large they are and what they represent in terms of worlds and stories and these things. And both Enemy and Prisoners, Enemy, a movie that did not make this list that we'll probably talk about here in a second, come out in 2013.
Yeah.
And they're both very much smaller scale, much more insular stories of characters that are not combating or contrasting the large landscape that is happening around them. And I think it's pretty crazy, at least this from what I hear. People don't really mention Prisoners like in the Denis conversation. Like we're in the heat of Dune Part 2 right now, and people are like, this is the greatest thing ever. And like, look at this run, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Dune, and Dune Part 2. And it's like, you guys are missing Prisoners and Enemy, which I think are two of his best films. But that's because they're so contrasting everything else he's made since then.
Yeah, I agree totally. And it's interesting to see that. I haven't seen anything before this. I know there are some real film people out there that have seen like Polytechnique and things like that. But at least from my experience, we start with Prisoners and Enemy, and then we just keep getting progressively, literally bigger in scope with Sicario, Arrival. My big hole, like Denis hole, is still Blade Runner 2049. I still have not seen that.
Oh, man.
I know, it's kind of crazy. But then Dune and Dune Part 2, like it's impressive what he's been able to do, but I love Prisoners.
Yeah. Okay. That's our Jake Gyllenhaal collaborative draft. I'll go over it so we all know what we did. Number 7, End of Watch. Number 6, Brokeback Mountain. Number 5, Nightcrawler. Number 4, Donnie Darko. Number 3, Ambulance. Number 2, Zodiac. And number 1, Prisoners. That's our 7 Jake Gyllenhaal. Have you seen all of these movies, Ben?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I've not seen End of Watch. That's the one that I haven't. So I'm gonna have to get on that. How do you feel?
I feel good. I think I don't know. Sometimes you overthink it, and it's like, do I play it too safe? And Brokeback at 6 is nuts because I could have easily played that at 2 or 4, for sure. But you never know what your collaborative opponent is thinking. It's like, well, I just need to make sure Brokeback, I gotta feel him out and see what he's thinking about it being on here. So I'm glad it's on the list. It's a little lower than I want, but I'm glad it's here.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I'm going to shuffle things, I'm going to bump Brokeback to 3 and then we can just notch everything down a little bit. I feel pretty good actually about what we did here. I think the big omission for me would be Enemy. I think I would have put that in at the number 7 spot. Of course, a movie where he has to play against himself, which is really fascinating and not something he does anywhere else. Pretty cool.
Kind of interesting. My biggest omission would probably be Source Code. I put out there on Twitter and Instagram. I was like, what are your favorite Gyllenhaals? What should I watch? And Source Code, I heard a lot about. I had seen it before, but it'd been a while, so I rewatched that. Really good performance. It's a really interesting, he kind of plays this military dude that has to solve a crime that happens on a train, but it's almost like the Live, Die, Repeat, where he only has 8 minutes to do it. So it's done like in 8-minute segments, because then the train explodes and he's got to like rejuvenate whatever, like come back to life. And then he's got 8 more minutes to try to figure it out again. And it's just like, it's a really interesting kind of whodunit race against the clock, but he does a wonderful job in that movie. But I maybe would have played that at 6 or something if I felt more confident about Brokeback, but that's where I'm at. But I was amazed how much I haven't seen from Gyllenhaal that I want to, like Jarhead, Brothers.
The Covenant. I want to see The Covenant.
Yeah, like that looks really, really good. Guy Ritchie.
You see Southpaw?
I have not seen Southpaw.
Okay, I haven't either. Just curious. You think Jake Gyllenhaal ever win an Oscar?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Maybe for supporting something.
He's been nominated once, of course, for Best Supporting Actor in Brokeback Mountain. That was in 2006. So we're talking about 16 years ago.
Or 18.
However math works.
One of the two.
And I don't know if he didn't get nominated for Zodiac, if he didn't get nominated for Prisoners.
Yeah.
It feels like the time has passed. And that hurts. Like that makes me sad to say, but I think that's the reality.
But did that same thing happen with RDJ, or did he win for Chaplin?
I do not believe he won for Chaplin. I believe he was nominated.
So it's kind of
did not win.
A similar setup.
So what we're saying is that in 10 years, work with Denis again, or work with Christopher Nolan, or work with one of the greats, and then we'll see that Oscar.
Yeah, that's quite possible. He's good enough to get it, to get nominated again for sure.
I agree. I think he's good enough to get nominated. What do we got to do to get him in a Nolan movie, man?
Yeah,
That'd be sick. Has he? I don't think he's been in one, right?
No, because those are the two I've been trying to watch, is Jake and Nolan. I was like, man, it'd be great if you guys had a crossover movie that could knock 2 out at once.
That would be pretty cool. Okay, well, Jake Gyllenhaal collab draft is in the books. We've got 7 on the board.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go rewatch Prisoners after this pod. That's where I've landed. I feel pretty good about that. Ben, thanks as always for participating in this draft. I have no one else to thank but you. So you're really the core here.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to have been here. This was fun to do. It was fun to revisit some of these Jake G movies for sure.
Yeah, it was a good time, no doubt. Be sure to listen and subscribe to the Movie Draft Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes will release weekly on Tuesdays. We'll see you then.